The extraction point was chaos. Harvester drones had discovered it and were attacking in waves. Vexala guided the survivors through maintenance tunnels trying to avoid direct confrontation. The draconian security officer, whose name was Kraz, took charge of the defensive efforts, but their weapons had little effect against the biomechanical monsters. "We need the human," one of the Medusan scientists whispered, her tentacles writhing in distress. "Without her, we are already dead." As if summoned by these words, Kate appeared. She was covered in more wounds but moved with the same deadly efficiency. She carried another survivor, a young Florian whose leafy skin had begun to wilt from stress. "Found her hiding in a storage locker," Kate explained, as she gently set the plant being down. "The extraction point is compromised," Kraz reported. "There are at least 30 drones between us and the docking bay." Kate nodded. Change of plans. She activated her communication device. "Maverick, this is Groundhog extraction point beta is hot, request alternate route." The response came through clearly this time. "Copy that, Groundhog, sending coordinates for extraction point Gamma Engineering Sector Maintenance Airlock 42B. Kate looked at Vexala. "Do you know where that is?" Vexala nodded. "It's on the other side of the station. We would need to cross through the central hub, which is probably crawling with harvesters." Kate finished the thought. She considered for a moment. "No choice. We move fast. We move quiet. Anyone who can't keep up gets carried." The journey through the damaged station was a nightmare. Sections had lost gravity. Others had lost atmosphere. They had to navigate around massive holes where the harvesters had simply removed parts of the station. What was most disturbing was how methodical the destruction was. The harvesters were not mindless. They were calculating, efficient in their consumption of the station. Kate led them through it all. Her knowledge of tactical movement was impressive. She seemed to instinctively know when to hide, when to run, when to fight. The survivors began to look to her with something approaching reverence. Even Kraz deferred to her judgment. They were halfway to the new extraction point when they encountered something new. A harvester coordinator. Nearly 3 times the size of regular drones, with multiple sensor arrays and specialized appendages. Its central processor glowed with sickly green energy. "Back," Kate whispered, pulling the group into a recessed doorway. "That's a command unit. They don't usually join harvesting operations." "What does it mean?" Vexala asked, watching the massive entity direct smaller drones in stripping a laboratory. "It means they've found something valuable," Kate replied. "Something worth sending a commander for." The coordinator suddenly turned its sensor array toward their hiding place. The survivors froze. Kate slowly raised her railgun. "Wait," Vexala whispered. "I have a better idea." She focused her thoughts using a Zeraxian mental technique that allowed her to control her skin pigmentation with precision. Instead of camouflaging herself, she created a bright pulsing pattern on her exposed arms. "What are you doing?" Kate hissed. "Trust me," Vexala replied. "Their sensors detect energy patterns. This will look like a station system malfunction." She continued the pulsing pattern, creating the impression of a failing power conduit. The coordinator stared for a long moment, then turned away, directing its drones to continue their work. "Impressive," Kate whispered. "Where did you learn that?" "I'm a xenobiologist," Vexala explained. "I study how different species adapt to their environments. The harvesters may be partly mechanical, but their biological components still follow predictable patterns." They waited until the coordinator moved to another section, then continued their journey. Kate moved beside Vexala. "You keep surprising me, Doctor." "Vexala," she corrected, "and you humans are the surprising ones. Your existence has been debated by council scientists for centuries. Some insisted you were real. Others claimed you were an elaborate hoax or a misidentification of another species." "And what did you think?" Kate asked, as they navigated a damaged corridor. "I thought if humans existed, they would be nothing like the stories," Vexala admitted. "No species could be that adaptable, that resilient, that—" She searched for the word, determined. Kate smiled, that strange, flat-toothed smile, and now, Now, I wonder what other stories might be true. Vexala replied. They reached a sealed door. Kate checked her device. This leads to the central hub. We need to cross it to reach the engineering section. Kraz scanned the door with a security device. Heavy, harvester presence on the other side. At least 50 drones and... He paused. Something big. Something drawing massive power. Let me see. Kate took the scanner, frowning at the readings. They're building something converting station materials. That's what they do. One of the other survivors said. They harvest and convert. Not like this. Kate replied. This is different, more organized. She handed the scanner back to Kraz. We need another way around. Vexala studied a station schematic on a nearby terminal. There is no other way. The hub connects all sections. Any alternate route would take hours. And we have minutes, Kate finished. She thought for a moment, then turned to the group. Am going through alone. I'll create a diversion. Draw them. Away from the far exit, you wait 3 minutes, then cross straight through. Don't stop, don't hide, just run. That is suicide, Kraz stated. Even for a human, Kate shrugged. Maybe. But 28 of you will make it. She checked her weapon. The extraction. Ship will wait 5 minutes at the airlock. After that, they have orders to leave with or without us. He'll go with you, Vexala said, surprising herself. 2 diversions are better than 1, and I can use my biophotonic abilities to create confusion. Kate studied her for a moment, then nodded. Anyone else? Kraz stepped forward. I am security. My duty is to protect these people. In the end, 6 volunteers joined the diversion team. Kate gave the others clear instructions. Wait for the alarm. Follow the center path directly across. Keep moving no matter what. 3 minutes after the alarm. The diversion team prepared. Kate distributed the remaining emergency shields and showed them how to set proximity detonators on damaged sections of wall. We're going to make them think the station is breaking apart, she explained. The harvesters are programmed to preserve valuable resources. They'll move to secure areas they think are in danger. How do you know so much about them? One of the volunteers, a Medusan engineer, asked. We've been fighting them for 30 years. Kate replied simply. They hit our outer colonies first. We learned fast or died. The implication stunned the group. Humans had been fighting the Harvester Collective for 3 decades, yet the Council had only confirmed their existence 7 years ago. The thought that a supposedly primitive species had been holding the line while the advanced civilizations remained ignorant was humbling. Kate finished setting the last charge. Ready, everyone, remember their positions. The team nodded. Vexala, you're with me? They entered the hub through a maintenance hatch. The scene that greeted them was worse than expected. The once beautiful central space of the station had been transformed. Walls, floor, ceiling, all had been stripped to their base components. The graceful architecture was gone, replaced by harvester construction. Biomechanical growths extended from a central structure that pulsed with energy. Drones moved in coordinated patterns, some harvesting materials, others integrating them into the growing mass. They're building a nest, Kate whispered. A permanent installation. This isn't a raid, it's a colonization. The implications were staggering. The harvesters didn't just consume and move on. They established footholds. Vexala realized with horror that the station was being converted into a harvester outpost, one that could produce more drones and launch attacks on nearby systems. Kate pointed to different sections of the hub, indicating where each team member should place their devices. Then she showed them the exit on the far side. That's where you'll lead the others through. When the charges go off, the harvesters will move to contain what they think is structural damage. The team split up, moving carefully through the shadows. Vexala stayed with Kate, watching how the human navigated the space. She moved differently than any species Vexala had studied before. A perfect balance of caution and speed, adaptability, and purpose. They reached their position behind what had once been a decorative fountain, now half consumed by harvester technology. Kate placed her device, then checked the others through her communicator. All charges set, everyone in position. Affirmative. Responses came in. On my mark, 3, 2, 1 mark. The charges detonated simultaneously. The sound was deafening. Sections of wall exploded outward, creating the impression that the station's structural integrity was failing. As predicted, the Harvester, drones immediately moved toward the breaches, coordinating their efforts to prevent the loss of valuable materials. Kate hit an alarm panel, sending emergency signals throughout the station. "Now we run," she told Vexala. "Straight across, draw there. Attention!" They burst from cover, sprinting across the open space of the hub. Kate fired her railgun at key points in the Harvester construction, not to destroy but to attract attention. It worked. Drones turned from the breaches, focusing on the new threat. Vexala used her biophotonic abilities, creating disorienting patterns of light across her skin. Harvester sensors struggled to lock onto the constantly changing energy signature. The other members of the diversion team did their parts, creating chaos from different directions. The Earthship pulled away from the station with seconds to spare. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. The Harvester ships surrounding the station were caught in the blast, their biomechanical hulls rupturing from the force. Several Council defense vessels that had maintained a safe distance survived. The destruction of the Queen had thrown the Harvester forces into disarray. Without central coordination, they began to retreat. Vexala watched through a viewport as her home for the past 3 cycles was reduced to scattered debris. She felt a strange mix of emotions: grief for those lost, relief at her survival, and wonder at the humans who had saved them. The ship's medical bay was crowded with survivors. Human medics worked efficiently, treating injuries they had never seen before on species they had likely never encountered. Kate sat on an examination table while a human doctor treated her wounds. "You should be dead," the doctor said, examining a particularly nasty gash on Kate's shoulder. That toxin concentration would kill most humans. Kate shrugged, then winced at the movement. "Got the antidote implant last year. New formula works better." "Still," the doctor muttered, "you pushed it too far. Cellular damage is at 15%. Any higher and even the Regan treatments won't help." Vexala approached, fascinated by the medical discussion. "Your species can regenerate damaged tissue." The doctor looked up. "To a degree, we can accelerate the natural healing process and guide it. Use stem cell therapies to replace damaged organs, nanite treatments for toxin removal." He gestured to equipment that looked both familiar and alien to Vexala. "Nothing magical, just good science. And stubbornness," Kate added with a smile. "Doc says half of human medical outcomes are determined by the patient's will to recover." "That's not what I said," the doctor protested. "I said psychological factors play a significant role in recovery rates." "Same thing," Kate replied. Vexala was intrigued. "Your medical technology seems advanced, yet the Council records classify Earth as a Level 3 civilization pre-interstellar travel." Kate and the doctor exchanged glances. "Yeah, about that." Kate said, "Your Council's information might be, a bit outdated." Before she could elaborate, the ship's captain entered the medical bay. He was older than Kate, with gray in his hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of both laughter and hardship. The survivors immediately sensed his authority and fell silent. "I'm Captain Malone of the EDF Pathfinder." He introduced himself. "You're safe now. We're taking you to our forward base in the Proxima Centauri system. There you'll be transferred to a Council relief vessel." "The Council has no base in that system," Kraz said suspiciously. Captain Malone smiled slightly. "No, they don't. We do. We've had a presence there for nearly 50 years. The revelation caused a stir among the survivors. Vexala could hardly believe it. Humans had established a base in a neighboring star system without the Council's knowledge or approval. It should have been impossible. The Council monitoring systems were extensive. How, she asked. The Council monitors all space travel within 50 light years of its, territories. We're good at being quiet when we need to be, Captain Malone replied. And your monitoring systems have blind spots. We found them. He turned to address all the survivors. We'll reach the base in about 6 hours. I suggest you all rest. Meanwhile, my first officer will take your information so we can notify your governments of your rescue. As the captain left, Kate slid off the examination table, ignoring the doctor's protests. I'll show you around, she told Vexala, unless you'd rather rest. Vexala was too curious to rest. "I would like to see your ship if permitted." Kate led her through the Pathfinder explaining systems and introducing crew members. The vessel was smaller than Council ships of similar function, but the technology was impressive, efficient designs, clean energy systems, and interfaces that seemed intuitive across species. "Your technology doesn't match your supposed development level," Vexala observed as they entered what Kate called the recreation deck, a space where off-duty crew could relax. "Yeah, we're full of surprises," Kate replied, sitting at a table and gesturing for Vexala to join her. "The truth is, Earth reached space earlier than the Council records show. We developed differently." "How so?" "Most Council species developed space travel after they unified their planets, right?" Kate asked. "One government, one people reaching for the stars together." Vexala nodded. "That's the standard development pattern. The Xeraxian unity was formed 300 years before our first interstellar flight. The Council considers planetary unification a prerequisite for stable space travel." Kate laughed. "Yeah, we didn't do that. We went to space divided, competing nations, different ideologies, all racing to get there. First, it wasn't pretty, but it was effective. Competition drove innovation much faster than cooperation would have. But the resource waste, Vexala couldn't imagine it. The duplication of effort. Enormous," Kate agreed. "But we got to the moon while we still had nations fighting each other. Mars too. We only unified later when we needed to." She looked out a viewport at the stars. "When the harvesters came, they attacked Earth." Vexala was shocked. The Harvester Collective usually avoided well, defended worlds preferring easier targets. 30 years ago, Kate confirmed. "Hit a colony on Mars first, then moved on Earth. We weren't ready. Lost millions before we figured out how to fight them." Her eyes had that distant look Vexala had seen in veterans of other conflicts. "After that, we didn't have the luxury of fighting each other. Survival became the priority. Yet the Council records show no Harvester activity in your system because we drove them out before the Council even knew." "They were there," Kate said, "and we decided to keep it that way." "Why?" Vexala couldn't understand. The Council could have helped provided technology protection. Kate's expression hardened. "We sent messages to the nearest Council outpost when the first Harvester ships appeared, when they attacked Mars, when they reached Earth orbit. Know what response we got?" Vexala shook her head. "Form 5529B, request for verification of non-Council species. Claim." Kate's voice was bitter. "A bureaucratic form, asking us to prove we existed before they'd consider investigating." Followed by Form 6721A, preliminary assessment of technological development. "By the time your bureaucrats processed our paperwork, we'd either be dead or have solved the problem. Ourselves, we chose the second option." Vexala felt shame wash over her. The Council's procedures were notoriously slow, deliberate by design to prevent hasty decisions. But in a crisis, such deliberation could be fatal. "So you've been fighting them, alone?" "Not entirely alone," Kate said. "We found other species, the Arcturians, the Tau, the Solari. None in the Council, all considered too primitive or too aggressive for membership. Together we formed the Alliance." This was staggering news. An alliance of non-Council species operating in Council space, fighting a threat the Council itself struggled to contain. Vexala's scientific mind raced with questions. How many worlds does this alliance encompass? 17 at last count, Kate said. Mostly. Smaller civilizations, some refugees from worlds the Harvesters destroyed. And your technological level? Kate smiled. Officially, according to Council classification level 3. Actually, she shrugged. Hard to say our development wasn't typical. We focused on certain areas, defense, stealth, communication, while neglecting others. We still don't have the massive city ships the Council uses or the zero-point energy technology, but our weapons work against the Harvesters better than Council designs, and our ships can go places yours can't. Because you developed in response to the Harvester threat, Vexala realized, while Council technology developed along different paths. Exactly. Kate seemed pleased that Vexala understood. We had to adapt or So we adapted. She gestured around the ship. Everything you see was designed to fight and survive against overwhelming odds. Because that's what humans do. They continued the tour, visiting the bridge engineering, and finally returning to the medical bay. The doctor had finished treating Kate's wounds, though he insisted she rest. Kate ignored him as she had throughout their tour. Why did you save us? Vexala finally asked the question that had been bothering her. Your people have been ignored by the council for decades. According to what you've told me, we left you to face the harvesters alone. Why risk your lives for us? Kate considered the question. There are different opinions about that. Some in the Alliance wanted to let the Council learn the hard way what the harvesters can do. Others argued for revealing ourselves only after the Council admitted they needed help. But not you. No. Kate said simply, I believe we save everyone we can, not because they deserve it, not because there's something to gain, but because that's what makes us human. She smiled slightly. Besides, this was a good opportunity to finally make formal contact. The Council can't ignore us now. Vexala understood suddenly. This wasn't just a rescue mission. It was first contact, official first contact, Kate corrected. We've been watching the Council for decades, learning your languages, your customs, your politics. We wanted to introduce ourselves on our terms, not as supplicants begging for recognition, but as equals. By saving Council citizens from the harvesters, it seemed appropriate, Kate said. Given our history with them, the ship's communication system activated. Attention all personnel and passengers. We are approaching Proxima. Base, please prepare for arrival. Kate led Vexala back to the main gathering area where the other survivors had assembled. Captain Malone was addressing them. 3 weeks after the rescue, Vexala found herself on Earth. The diplomatic process had moved with unprecedented speed for the Council, driven by the reality of the harvester threat and the undeniable evidence of human capabilities. A preliminary cooperation agreement had been signed and cultural exchanges had begun. Vexala had been selected as a scientific liaison, her first-hand experience with humans making her an ideal candidate. Earth was nothing like she had imagined. The human homeworld was a study in contrasts. Ancient structures stood alongside modern buildings. Wilderness areas were carefully preserved next to dense urban centers. Different cultures, languages, and religions coexisted, sometimes uneasily, but with a vibrancy that was distinctly human. Kate had been assigned as her guide. Welcome to Chicago, she said as they stood on the shore of a vast lake. One of our older cities, though not by Council standards. It's beautiful, Vexala said, watching the sunlight play across the water. Your world has so much water, so much life. As a xenobiologist, she was fascinated by Earth's biodiversity. The sheer variety of species was staggering compared to most Council worlds. We like it, Kate said with a smile, though we nearly lost it all several times. Environmental disasters, wars, the harvester attack. We humans have a talent for creating problems and then solving them just in time. They walked through a park. Vexala, drawing curious but mostly respectful looks from humans. Children pointed and asked questions, their parents hushing them, but Kate encouraged the interaction. They're just curious, she told one apologetic mother. How else will they learn? A small human child approached, staring at Vexala with wide eyes. Are you an alien? Vexala crouched to the child's level. Yes, from a planet called Zyrax. Many light years from here. Cool, the child said with simple acceptance. Can you do tricks with your skin? Vexala demonstrated, shifting her skin color through a rainbow of hues. The child laughed in delight. Thank you for being so patient with her, the mother said as they moved on. Her curiosity is refreshing. Vexala replied. On Council worlds, children are taught not to ask such direct questions about physiological differences. Human children have no filter, Kate said. They say what they think, ask what they want to know. It's considered part of healthy development. They continued their tour, visiting a university where Vexala was scheduled to Give a presentation on council biology to human scientists. The lecture hall was packed not just with academics but with government officials, military personnel, and media. I didn't expect such interest. Vexala whispered to Kate as they waited to begin. You're one of the first council scientists to present on Earth, Kate explained, and the first Xeraxian most humans have ever seen outside of fiction anyway. The presentation went well, though the questions afterward were more wide-ranging than Vexala had anticipated. Human scientists wanted to know about Xeraxian evolution, council technological development patterns of interspecies cooperation. Their questions were insightful, often challenging conventional council wisdom. Your species seems to approach science differently than the council, Vexala observed later as they shared a meal, less structured, more intuitive. We value unorthodox thinking, Kate said. Some of our greatest discoveries came from scientists who questioned established theories. Sometimes the outsider sees what the expert misses. The council values consensus, Vexala explained. Scientific progress through careful incremental steps, each verified by multiple experts. Both approaches have merit, Kate said diplomatically, but in a crisis when you don't have time for consensus. The human approach has advantages, Vexala conceded, as the harvester situation demonstrates. Their conversation was interrupted by Kate's communication device. Incoming, alert. She apologized, checking the message. Her expression turned serious. We need to go, Command Center Priority 1. They hurried to a nearby government building where security was tight. Kate's credentials got them through multiple checkpoints to a secure operations center. Deep inside the facility, they entered a room filled with displays showing star charts, fleet movements, and real-time data streams. Captain Malone was there, looking grave. He nodded to Kate. Glad you're here. The situation has escalated. What happened? Kate asked. Harvester forces have hit 3 systems simultaneously, Malone replied, bringing up tactical displays, a council colony in the Epsilon Indi system, an alliance outpost at Tau Ceti, and a joint research facility. At Bernard's Star, they're coordinating their attacks. That's new, Kate said, studying the displays. They usually hit one target, strip it clean, then move on. They're adapting, Vexala realized, learning from their defeats. Exactly. Malone pointed to data streams. The attack patterns show increased tactical sophistication. These aren't random resource-gathering missions, they're strategic strikes. Targeting our cooperation, Kate said, hit both Council and Alliance targets plus the joint facility where we're sharing technology. Malone nodded. High Command thinks they recognize the threat our alliance poses. They're trying to break it before it strengthens. Intelligent adaptation, Vexala said. The Queens must be communicating, sharing information. We've suspected a hive mind component for years, Kate agreed. But this confirms it. They're not just individual colonies. They're a coordinated collective. A human general approached the group. We're deploying response forces to all 3 locations. Combined Council and Alliance fleets. But we need intelligence. First-hand observation of these new tactics. Kate straightened. Pathfinder is ready, sir. I was hoping you'd say that. Commander, the general replied. Your ship leaves in 3 hours. Special mission parameters. He glanced at Vexala. We need council expertise on this one. Vexala understood the implication. I would be honored to assist. The general nodded. Good, Dr. Vexala. Your knowledge of xenobiology combined with Commander Morris's combat experience gives us our best chance to understand what we're facing. 3 hours later, they were aboard the Pathfinder, heading for the Bernard's Star research facility. The ship had been resupplied, its crew augmented, with both human and council specialists. The mood was tense but focused. Kate, now formally addressed as Commander Morris by the crew, showed Vexala to a small laboratory. I thought you might want to set up here. We've installed council-compatible equipment. The lab was well equipped with both human and council technology, seamlessly integrated. Vexala was impressed by how quickly the humans had adapted council systems. The research facility at Bernard's Star, Vexilla asked. What were they? Studying harvester biology. Kate replied, Council scientists were analyzing samples we'd collected over the years, looking for weaknesses. We shared everything we knew. They shared their advanced analytical techniques. Together, we were making progress, which is why the harvesters targeted it, Vexilla concluded. They somehow knew. That's one of the questions we need to answer. Kate agreed. How did they know, and how are they coordinating across such vast distances? The journey to Bernard's Star took 20 hours, during which Vexilla familiarized herself with human research on the harvesters. Their understanding was impressive, focused on practical applications rather than theoretical classifications. They had identified vulnerabilities in harvester biology and exploited them, developing weapons that targeted specific biological systems. Your approach is very different from Council research, Vexilla told Kate as they reviewed the data. We categorize, we analyze, we develop comprehensive models. You identify weaknesses and exploit them. Different priorities, Kate replied. We didn't have the luxury of comprehensive analysis. We needed results fast. The harvesters were on our doorstep. Both approaches have value, Vexilla said. Combined, they may give us the edge we need. They arrived at Bernard's Star to find devastation. The research facility, a space station similar to the one where they had met, had been almost completely harvested. Only a central core remained. The harvester ships were gone, having stripped what they needed and moved on. We're too late, Captain Malone said as they surveyed the damage. They've taken everything of value. Not everything. Kate pointed to sensor readings. The secure vault is intact. They couldn't breach it. The secure vault contained the most sensitive research samples and data protected by multiple redundant systems. It had withstood the harvester attack. We need to retrieve that data, Malone decided. Commander Morris, take a team salvage. What you can. Kate assembled a team, including Vexilla, whose knowledge of the research would be valuable. They boarded a shuttle and approached the remains of the station. The damage was worse up close. Harvester technology had been efficient in its destruction. Stay alert, Kate warned as they docked. There might be stragglers, drones left behind to complete the harvesting. They entered the station in environmental suits. The atmosphere had been vented in most sections. Emergency lighting flickered, casting eerie shadows. Kate led the way, her movements careful, deliberate. Vexilla stayed close, watching for signs of harvester activity. They found bodies, both human and Council researchers who had died defending their work. Kate respectfully recovered. Identification tags, Vexilla said, a traditional Xeraxian blessing for the dead. The secure vault was located in the central core. As they approached, the entry system activated, recognizing their credentials. The massive door slid open, revealing an untouched interior. Computers hummed, banks of samples glowed with preservation fields. Everything was intact. 6 months after the Bernard's Star incident, Vexilla stood before the Galactic Council itself. The Grand Chamber on Zeta Reticuli was filled with representatives from all 17 Council species. Their attention was focused entirely on her, the lone Xeraxian scientist who had become the unlikely bridge between two civilizations, Dr. Vexilla. The Council Premier, a venerable Florian whose leafy skin had darkened with age, addressed her. Your report on human capabilities and the joint operation against the Harvester Collective has been reviewed. We commend your thorough analysis and first-hand observations. Vexilla bowed slightly in the traditional Xeraxian manner. I merely documented what I observed, Premier. The humans and their alliance have proven themselves capable allies against a common threat. Indeed, the Premier continued. Which brings us to the matter at hand. The formal recognition of Earth and its alliance partners as full members of the Galactic Council, a step unprecedented in Council history. The chamber filled with murmurs, some supportive, others clearly opposed. The Council had been debating this issue for months. Traditional procedure would require centuries of observation, probationary status, and gradual integration. But the Harvester threat had forced a reconsideration of those procedures. The humans have not followed the prescribed path of development. One council member, a draconian diplomat, objected. They developed interspecies cooperation before planetary unification. Their technological progress has been erratic, focused primarily on defense rather than cultural advancement. With respect, Vexala responded, the prescribed path was developed based on the experiences of current council members. It represents one model of development, not the only possible model. Human history followed a different trajectory, yet produced a civilization capable of resisting the harvesters when established council worlds fell. A valid point. Another council member agreed. Results must be considered alongside process. The debate continued, Vexala presenting evidence of human capabilities and the successful joint operations that had taken place since the Bernard Star incident, the disruption of Harvester. Communication networks had proven a turning point. The combined Council Alliance forces had launched coordinated strikes against Harvester strongholds, pushing them back from settled space for the first time in decades. Finally, the Premier called for order. We have heard the arguments. We will now vote on Resolution 7729A, the formal recognition of Earth and its alliance partners as full members of the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities therein. The vote was close, but Resolution 7729A passed. A new era of cooperation had begun. Vexala felt a sense of accomplishment. Her grandmother's stories had prepared her to recognize humans when she encountered them, but nothing had prepared her for how that encounter would change the council itself. After the session, Kate found her in the council gardens. The human wore a formal Earth Defense Force uniform decorated with commendations. She had recovered from her injuries, though Vexala knew she carried scars, both physical and mental. Congratulations, Ambassador, Kate said with a smile. First contact to full council membership in 6 months. You've made history. We've made history, Vexala corrected, and I'm not an ambassador yet. Just a formality, Kate replied. The appointment's being announced tomorrow. You'll be Earth's first council ambassador from a non-human species, a symbol of our new partnership. The news surprised Vexala, though perhaps it shouldn't have. She had spent the past 6 months working closely, with humans learning their ways, advocating for cooperation between species. Her perspective as both a council scientist and someone who had fought alongside humans gave her unique insights. I'm honored, she said finally, but uncertain if I'm qualified for such a role. Who better? Kate asked. You understand both sides. You've seen us at our best and our worst. You fought with us. You get what makes humans different without being afraid of it. They walked through the garden, admiring the collection of plants from across council space. New sections were being prepared for Earth specimens and other Alliance worlds. Earth's changed since you first visited, Kate said. The council membership has opened doors, opportunities for trade, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. The public is excited. Some are nervous, but mostly people see it as a new chapter. And the harvesters, Kate's expression turned serious. Pushed back, but not defeated. They're regrouping, adapting as they always do. But we're stronger together. The joint fleet actions have been successful. The Council's defensive technology combined with our offensive capabilities makes a formidable combination. And the research continues. Vexala added, the communication disruption was just the beginning. The joint science teams are making breakthroughs daily, combining council theoretical models with human practical applications. They reached a viewing platform that overlooked the council capital. The city stretched to the horizon, a testament to thousands of years of cooperative development. Will you accept the ambassador position? Kate asked. Vexala considered the question. Her scientific career had been focused on understanding other species, their biology, their evolution, their adaptations. Now she was being asked to help two civilizations understand each other, a different kind of xenobiology. Yes, she decided. It seems I have a comparative advantage in understanding humans, Kate laughed. That's one way to put it. And you, Commander, what will you do now that the formal military cooperation agreement has been signed? Back to what I do best, Kate replied. The EDF is forming Joint Strike Teams Council and Alliance personnel working together. I'll be training the first group, still fighting on the front lines. It's what I'm good at, Kate said simply. Besides, someone needs to show the Council forces how to think like humans, adapt, improvise, overcome. 3 weeks later, Vexala stood on the bridge of a Council, diplomatic vessel heading for Earth to formally take up her position as ambassador. The ship was a marvel of Council engineering, graceful, efficient, comfortable, yet it now incorporated human-designed defense systems, a symbol of the new cooperation. Captain Malone had arranged for the Pathfinder to escort the diplomatic vessel. Part of the new security protocols, Kate served as liaison officer. Vexala suspected she had requested the assignment, nervous. Kate asked, joining her at a viewport, contemplative. Vexala replied, 6 months ago I believed humans were myths, now I represent the Council to your world. Life comes at you fast, Kate said with a characteristic human idiom. But you adapt, a very human perspective. I'll take that as a compliment. They watched as Earth came into view. The blue world that had produced such an improbable species, humans were still an anomaly by Council standards. Their development path, their biology, their social structures all defied conventional models, yet they had proven themselves not just viable but valuable allies. I've been meaning to ask you something, Vexala said. That first day on the station when the harvesters attacked, you said humans help others because that's what makes you human. What did you mean? Kate considered the question. It's complicated. We have a concept called humanity. It's not just about being human, biologically. It's about certain qualities, compassion, empathy, the drive to help others even at cost to yourself. She paused, searching for words. When we're at our best, that's what defines us, not our technology, not our strength, but our capacity to care about others, even those different from ourselves. A powerful evolutionary adaptation, Vexala observed. Cooperation. Beyond kin groups, beyond species boundaries. Maybe. Kate smiled. Or maybe just the right thing to do. As they approached Earth, Vexala received a priority communication from the Council Premier. The message was brief but significant authorization to share classified Council technology with human scientists, technology previously restricted to full Council members. It seems the Council is fully embracing the partnership, Vexala told Kate, showing her the authorization. Trust goes both ways. Kate replied, Our leadership just approved sharing our harvester combat data with all Council worlds, not just the joint research teams. The implications were profound. 2 civilizations that had developed separately were now joining their knowledge, their strengths, their futures. Vexala wondered what her grandmother would think of the warriors from her stories now. Not just real, but partners equals in facing the stars together. The diplomatic ship entered Earth orbit. A formal reception awaited. On the surface, leaders from Earth and its alliance partners, Council representatives, media from both civilizations. It would be a historic moment, the official beginning of a new era. Ready, Ambassador? Kate asked as they prepared to depart. As ready as one can be for making history, Vexala replied. Just be yourself, Kate advised. That's what impressed us in the first place. A scientist willing to question her own assumptions. One who could look at humans and see past the myths to who we really are. And who are you really? Commander Kate Morris of the Earth Defense Force. Kate smiled, that distinctive human expression that Vexala had come to appreciate. Just people trying our best, fighting when we must, helping when we can, making mistakes, learning from them, moving forward. She shrugged. Not so different from Xeraxians in the important ways. Perhaps that is the greatest discovery, Vexala said. Not that humans exist, but that beneath our physiological differences, our separate evolutionary paths, our distinct histories, we share fundamental qualities. Vexala stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Council station watching the stars. Her purple skin glowed softly in the dim light as her 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of deep thought. Among her people, the Xeraxians, this was a common meditation practice. When she was young, her grandmother would tell stories of the mythical human warriors, the fearsome bipeds from a distant blue world who could withstand extreme conditions, survive deadly injuries, and fight with unmatched determination. They were said to have only 2 eyes, yet could see into the souls of others. They had no protective scales or exoskeletons, yet could survive in environments that would kill most species. They had no natural weapons, yet had conquered their world with tools made from dead matter. Vexala, like most educated Xeraxians, believed these were just tales to frighten children, or perhaps ancient propaganda from the early days of space exploration. Humans, if they existed at all, were likely primitive, creatures barely capable of basic space travel, certainly not the unstoppable warriors of legend. She was a scientist after all, and evidence was what mattered, not stories passed down through generations. The space around the station was peaceful. Tonight, the 3 moons of Proxima Centauri b cast a gentle glow on the station's outer hull. Vexala had been stationed here for 3 cycles as a xenobiologist studying the various species that made up the Galactic Council. The Council itself was made up of 17 advanced civilizations that had formed an alliance for trade protection and scientific advancement. The Xeraxians had been founding members 10,000 years ago. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Vexala flinched, her purple skin shifting to a pale lavender in response to her fear. The station's emergency lights activated, bathing everything in red. The station commander, a towering draconian, appeared on all screens, his reptilian features severe. Enemy vessels, approaching all personnel to battle stations. This is not a drill. The Harvester Collective has breached the outer defense perimeter. Vexala rushed to her post in the diplomatic wing. Her 6-fingered hands trembled as she activated her console. The Harvester Collective had been expanding their territory for decades, consuming all resources and leaving barren planets in their wake. The reports from border worlds were nightmarish. Entire ecosystems, stripped ecosystems that had taken billions of years to evolve, gone in weeks. Now they had reached Galactic Council space. The station shuddered as the first blast hit. Vexala steadied herself against her workstation and brought up the external cameras. The sight made her secondary heart skip. A beat, the harvester ships swarmed like insects, their biomechanical hulls pulsating with eerie green light. The Council defense fleet was outnumbered 5-1. Another blast rocked the station, throwing Vexala to the floor. Emergency lights flickered. The artificial gravity wavered, causing objects to float momentarily before crashing down. An announcement echoed through the corridors. Hull breach on levels 3 through 7. Emergency protocols initiated. Evacuation. Recommended for all non-essential personnel. Reports flooded Vexala's screen. The harvesters were boarding. They would strip the station for parts and convert organic matter into fuel. That included all personnel. The defense systems were failing, and the station's shield generators were at 30% capacity. The draconian guards were fighting back, but their energy weapons seemed to have minimal effect on the harvester drones. Vexala scrambled to the emergency pods only to find them damaged. Several had already launched, but most had been targeted by the harvester ships. She was trapped. Her hearts raced in her chest as she heard the distinctive clicking sounds of harvester drones approaching. She pressed herself against the wall of a maintenance corridor, hoping her chameleonic abilities would hide her from their sensors. The clicking grew louder. 3 drones rounded the corner. Their insectoid bodies were a horrific fusion of biological and mechanical parts, with multiple limbs ending in various tools designed for harvesting materials, both inorganic and organic. Their sensor arrays scanned the corridor, sweeping back and forth. They were close enough that Vexala could smell the chemical compounds they exuded, a mixture of lubricants and digestive enzymes. The clicking suddenly stopped. A different sound replaced it. Wet crunching followed by mechanical whirring and sparking. She peered around the corner, unable to resist her scientific curiosity. Despite her fear, a lone figure stood amidst the broken remains of the 3 harvester drones. The being was wearing damaged armor that revealed patches of pink skin underneath. It turned toward her, and Vexala gasped. The creature had no scales, no fur, No exoskeleton, just smooth skin, with patches of hair on top of its head. 2 eyes not compound, not slitted, just round with white surroundings and colored centers. It was unmistakably mammalian. Human. The human female looked at Vexala with intense green eyes. She held a weapon that appeared primitive by council standards, a kind of projectile thrower, yet had clearly dispatched 3 elite harvester drones. Her face had a small gash that leaked red blood, but she seemed to pay it no attention. Her breathing was slightly elevated, but controlled. "My name is Kate," she said, her voice surprisingly soft for a creature that had just destroyed 3 killing machines. "I'm with the Earth Defense Force. We picked up your distress signal." Vexala stared, unable to process what she was. Seeing humans were real. Not just real, but advanced enough to receive deep space transmissions and respond. They existed beyond fairy tales. But how? Vexala finally managed. "You're just a myth. Stories to scare children." Kate smiled, revealing flat teeth with slightly pointed canines. "Stories tend to have some truth to them." She gestured to the destroyed drones. "We need to move, more will come. They always do." Vexala followed, still in shock. The human moved with purpose, checking corridors before first proceeding. Her reflexes were unnervingly fast. Despite being smaller than Vexala, the human radiated a dangerous confidence. "How did you get here?" Vexala asked, as they moved through the maintenance tunnels. "The station's defenses should prevent any unauthorized docking. We have our ways," Kate replied. "Your station's quantum encryption is good but not unbreakable. Besides, we didn't dock, we used drop pods. Individual insertion was less likely to be detected." She paused at a junction, listening, before continuing. "There are more of us on board a small strike team. They encountered more drones. Kate dispatched them with efficient brutality, sometimes using her weapon, which Vexala now recognized as a railgun, firing metal projectiles at incredible speeds. Sometimes using her hands. When a drone slashed her arm, drawing red blood, Vexala expected her to fall. The harvester drones were known to inject a powerful neurotoxin. Instead, Kate wrapped a piece of cloth around the wound and continued as if the injury was merely an inconvenience. "How are you still functioning?" Vexala asked. "That toxin in their claws paralyzes draconian guards in seconds." "Human biology," Kate said simply. "We're hard to kill. Something about our evolutionary path made us resistant to most toxins. Our liver can process almost anything given enough time. Our immune system is always on high alert and pain." She shrugged. "We've evolved to work through it." They reached a communication hub. Kate quickly worked the controls with surprising familiarity. "Your technology isn't that different from ours," she explained. "Parallel evolution, probably. Similar problems, similar solutions." She established a channel. "Maverick, this is Groundhog. I've got survivors need. Extraction point beta." A voice responded through static. "Copy that, Groundhog. ETA 8 minutes. Bring as many as you can. The harvesters are moving to the station's core. Looks like they're after the antimatter reserves." Kate turned to Vexala, her expression serious. "Can you get the others to this location?" She pointed to a map of the station highlighting an auxiliary docking bay. "Others?" Vexala asked, confused. Kate nodded. "There are 27 life forms still registering on this deck. Kamrikai. Don't leave people behind." Vexala felt a strange emotion watching this alien, this human. Her grandmother's stories flashed through her mind, tales of human determination, their refusal to abandon their own kind, or even strangers. For the first time, she wondered if all the stories might be true. "I can guide you to the emergency shelters," Vexala said, finding her courage. "There should be survivors there." Kate nodded. "Lead the way, I'll keep you safe." As they moved through the damaged station, Vexala noticed something strange about Kate. She never seemed to hesitate. When faced with a choice, she made decisions instantly. Whether to fight or hide, which corridor to take, how to approach a situation. There was no delay between thought and action. It was as if the human operated on instinct refined by training. They found 15 survivors huddled in a sealed conference room. A mix of species, Draconian, Florian, Medusan, and even a couple of fellow Xeraxians. Kate organized them efficiently. Vexala translated her instructions to the mixed species group. The calm authority in the human's voice seemed to transfer to the survivors. Fear gave way to determined hope. The extraction point is 2 levels down, Kate explained. We move in tight formation. I take point, Vexala will guide us. The injured in the middle. Everyone else forms a protective circle. The survivors looked at the human with mixtures of fear, wonder, and hope. The stories of humans had spread across many worlds, though few believed. Them now. Face to face with the reality, many seemed unsure how to react. Can we trust this creature? Asked a draconian security officer, his scales bristling. How do we know it's not leading us into a trap?